But first, the story breaking in the last few hours. Guilty verdicts across the board for 3 men who killed Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia.
Yeah, there were some pretty raw emotions on display outside the courtroom when that verdict was read. Arbery's family and friends obviously applauding the jury's verdict.
The 3 men faced a string of charges. Travis McMichael, the man who pulled the trigger, was found guilty of murder and other charges, as was his father, Greg McMichael. He was convicted of all but 1 count, and their neighbor, William Bryan, was found guilty of all but 4 counts. Jason Wheeler picks up our coverage.
In a case at the center of a nationwide outcry for racial justice, the jury reaching a verdict in the murder trial of the 3 white men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery, a black man who was out for a jog.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty. We, the jury, find the defendant, Greg McMichael, guilty. We, the jury, find the defendant, William R. Bryan, guilty.
Travis McMichael found guilty on all charges. Gregory McMichael found not guilty of malice murder, but guilty on all the other charges. And William Roddy Bryan Jr. found not guilty of malice murder and one of the felony murder charges, but guilty on 3 other charges along with assault.
Even though we are clapping and we are cheering and we applaud, Wanda and Marcus still are devastated because they're missing Ahmaud.
For weeks, the jury hearing testimony and watching dramatic cell phone video at the center of this case. Hours into deliberations, the jury asking to see that video again. At the heart of the trial, the question of whether Travis and Gregory McMichael and William Roddy Bryan Jr. acted in self-defense under a now repealed Georgia citizens arrest law. The prosecution arguing, though, against that notion, saying the 3 were the aggressors and went after Arbery because he was black, assuming that he was a thief, though police say he never took anything. The family of Ahmaud Arbery enduring the trial process from start to finish, hearing and watching Arbery's final moments as they played before the jury. Today's convictions carry a mandatory life sentence in prison. In Dallas, I'm Jason Wheeler.
All right, let's dig a bit deeper into how we got here. I want to bring in former criminal court judge Robert Kanyes. Judge Kanyes, what do you think went right for prosecutors in this case?
Well, as in all self-defense cases, one of the things a prosecutor is going to have to prove is why did the defendant do what they did? Or maybe to put it more accurately, they have to kind of counteract what was in the person's mind, which is a very hard thing to do. So what the prosecutor did right in this case is they very meticulously and deliberately went through the different pieces of evidence that showed that there's no way that the defendants could have had this in their mind, that he was a criminal, that he was burglarizing places in the neighborhood. There's no way they could have had those types of things in their mind, and therefore their actions were not reasonable, and therefore they should not be eligible for the self-defense defense.
On the other side, the defense did have some options in terms of how it wanted to frame the case. Was self-defense the best route to take?
Well, I think they didn't really have much of a choice. Yeah, you're right. They had some other options, but this was their best choice out of those options. They had to, under the law, find a reason for their actions. Otherwise, it would have been just a straight up murder case. And so to self-defense is what lends itself the best. It's what fit the facts that they wanted the jury to consider, which is supposedly Mr. Arbery grabbed the gun, so on and so on. But I think by the jury's verdict, they clearly rejected that defense.
We don't see a defendant take the stand all that often when his or her life is on the line. Are you surprised that Travis McMichael testified?
No, he had to testify. And I say that because, number one, he had to be the one to explain to the jury why self-defense would be like he's eligible for self-defense. And he had to explain to the jury what was in his mind, what kind of things was he taking into account. It also needed to be him because the jury they had to try to get the jury to like him, or to at least say that he wasn't such a bad guy, or give the jury some reason to see that he was reasonable and acting reasonable on that day. Obviously, by the verdict, it didn't work for him. He didn't have good answers to the prosecutor's questions, and he, at least in my mind, he couldn't adequately explain why he did what he did.
Yeah, and obviously, when you do take the stand, you open yourself up to cross-examination. Judge
right.
Conyers, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.